Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about a very active pattern that we might get in for our tropical weather. I'm not going to be able to guarantee that we will see any sort of tropical activity from this, but I think that it is going to be increasing in probability by a lot here for the end of June, beginning of July timeframe. Now, before I get started with this video though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to share this video with your friends, family, and social media. Now, for today's comment of the day, I want to know, do you think we will see another tropical storm in the month of June, or do you think we will not? Let me know and give me reasons in the comment down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Now, let's get into this video, and you might be wondering what in the world is on my screen right now, so let me explain what it is. Now, we're seeing the greens and the oranges. There's two different levels here, the greens and then the oranges. The oranges indicate sinking air, and then the green indicates rising air motion. And tropical activity occurs in the rising air motion, and it's really tough for it to occur in the sinking air motion. That's all you need to know. And as you can see, this is for June 17th, and you can see that we have sinking air for the entire Atlantic, basically, and especially the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean there. And then we have rising air out there in the Pacific. Now, we're about to move it towards June 27th, and you're going to see that it is going to completely flip. So we're going to take a look at some of the areas that will be favorable for tropical activity by the time we're at about June 27th. And as you can see, once we switched it, the greens went from being over the Pacific to moving over the Gulf, the Caribbean, also the Eastern Pacific there as well, but mostly what's interesting here is the complete flip around for the Gulf, the Caribbean, also near the United States there. These areas have went from orange to green, so they went from unfavorable for tropical development to favorable for tropical development in just 10 days. So again, this is a completely switching and revolving pattern. It switches very frequently, and it's going to switch throughout August and September too. We are going to have periods where we're going to be in the sinking air and the rising air throughout those months. So it's always occurring. And let's go ahead and take it to July 3rd, so we can take a look at the beginning of July as well. And you can see it even gets darker green there in the Gulf of Mexico, and we also see the Caribbean getting some of those deeper greens as well, as well as along the southeast coast there. So we are going to have a pretty favorable period from about at least the 25th through about the 5th of July. So we're going to have a big 10-day window or so where we're going to have some pretty favorable conditions for these regions. Also, here's another time frame. This is for June 23rd through June 30th. So this is a good 7-day window right here. And as you can see, during that entire period, we are going to have those greens set up over the Gulf, the Caribbean, even there to the north of South America, and offshore of the east coast of the United States. So basically, if there is a system that wants to develop in any of these areas, it is going to have a quite easy time developing, which is obviously concerning, and we don't like to see this. And this is usually what we look at when we see the beginning of a pattern that could set up to be very good for tropical activity. Alright, now we're about to move on and take a look at that current invest that we have in the Atlantic, and we're going to take a look at that and talk about it briefly. And here we are taking a look at that. You can see where that X marks the spot, basically. And you can see it's located just over South America. This is a pretty unusual area for tropical disturbances to be set up. But as we take a look, NOAA has given it a 0% chance of development over the next 5 days. So basically, this one is going to end up being practically nothing. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at another important factor for our tropical activity that's going to be upcoming potentially, and it's our tropical cyclone heat potential. And it's a very dynamic factor, so I'm not really going to break it down for you guys, but what I will tell you is that higher values really help tropical development. This is one of those tools that is basically one of the most important ones, and when you have high values of tropical cyclone heat potential, you know that these storms are going to have a very easy time developing over these waters. So here was 2005 on June 11th. I posted these to my Twitter, so you can see that we had anywhere in the turquoise to maybe yellows, which is about 50 to maybe we'll call it 90 there for our tropical cyclone heat potential. Now I'm about to switch it to 2020 on the same date, June 11th, so keep an eye on this so you can be ready to compare. And 3, 2, 1, here's 2020, and look at how much more of that tropical cyclone heat potential we have. We're in the reds and pinks, which is max value, so we have set up over the areas south of Cuba and south of Haiti. We have 100 to about 150 in those reds and pinks, which is max value. This is basically what it's like in August and September. So we already could support major hurricanes category 3, 4, 5 in this region right now, June, and it's probably going to extend into July at least. So we need to really watch this area closely. Even the Gulf and the East Coast have those turquoises and yellows, which is definitely sufficient for hurricane activity. So this is a very dangerous setup. All right, now we're about to move on. We're going to take a look at our GFS ensemble model and just compare a few things from right now to about the end of June and just take a look at how much more favorable it's going to become. All right, and first things first, we're taking a look at our pressure anomalies. Basically, the reds and oranges are going to be high pressure, and the blues are going to be lower pressure compared to what is normal. So as you can see, for June 17th, which is the time I'm making this video, we have higher pressure than what is typical for the Gulf, and right there south of Cuba, south of Haiti, south of Dominican Republic. But we do have that low pressure system offshore of North Carolina, which is a tropical invest, by the way, but it's not going to develop. And then let's go ahead and take it to June 20th, and you can see that the pressure starts to lower over these regions like the Gulf, the Caribbean, areas like that. And then by the time we take it to June 27th, you can see we move into the lower pressure than what is normal. And this is why I think these models are starting to hop on board with the potential that we will see some tropical activity over these waters. And again, the scary thing is this is exactly where we have that tropical cyclone heat potential that is extremely high set up. So if we do see a tropical system move over these areas, it would not have any trouble developing very, very intensely. So we have a very dangerous setup here. All right, now here's by June 29th, and you can see it only gets lower. We have some of those deeper blue areas set up over the Caribbean and the Gulf. Now what we're going to do now in the same fashion is take a look at our precipitable water anomalies and also our precipitation anomalies for these same dates and just go over and compare and just talk about how it's going to become more favorable. Now for this one, all you need to know is that the brown means less moisture and the green and blues means more moisture in the air. And what we can see here is by June 17th, which again is today, we can see a lot of browns set up south of Haiti, south of Dominican Republic, and south of Cuba, which means we have some dry air that is set up over there currently. And also for the northern regions in the Gulf of Mexico, or I guess the majority of the Gulf of Mexico and the southeast coast is set up with more dry air than what is typical. Now, as we take it to June 25th, you can see more brown sections set up in some of the Caribbean, some of the Gulf as well, with maybe the exception of the Western Gulf there. We'll need to watch that. But by the time we reach July 2nd here, it all becomes green for most of the Gulf of Mexico, most of the Caribbean. Again, just indicating that we will become more favorable for tropical activity within all of these regions, which again is just still a very dangerous thing because this is right where that tropical cyclone heat potential is extremely high. And if we do see any tropical activity set up, especially if it's going to move from the Caribbean and into the Gulf and potentially pose a threat for the U.S. Gulf Coast, we're really going to need to watch this time frame closely. And I'm very curious to see if, as we head into mid-July, late July, if we will stay in this favorable pattern or possibly become less favorable and then maybe become more favorable by time we hit by time we hit August. I don't really know. But it's going to be interesting as we move forward to see if because again, it's always a revolving pattern. Throughout the hurricane season, we're going to go into unfavorable conditions and we're going to go back into favorable conditions back and forth throughout the season. This happens every season. And it's really just going to be about time frame. When do we hit these favorable periods and when do we hit these unfavorable periods? Because if we have mostly unfavorable periods for August and September, you can kiss a historic season goodbye. But if we have mostly favorable periods with that rising air motion, well, then that's going to really support that case that we could have that historic hurricane season this year. So it does depend on a lot of things. Now let's look at that accumulated precipitation anomaly. And this is basically where the model thinks we're going to have less precipitation in the yellow and more precipitation in the green. And this is for June 24th. So you can see we're expecting more dry than normal conditions for a lot of the Gulf and a lot of the Caribbean, with the exception of the Bahamas there and offshore of the south and eastern coasts of Florida. But let's take it to July 3rd, and you can see we see a lot of greens show up there for the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, indicating it is thinking more precipitation is going to set up over these regions, which in turn means it thinks there will be an above average chance for tropical activity throughout all of these regions. I hope that this video was pretty clear and I gave enough evidence to my case that I think that we will definitely become we're in a very unfavorable period right now for tropical activity in the Gulf and the Caribbean. And by the time we're at the end of June, in the very beginning portion of July, we will begin to become very favorable for tropical activity. And this does not mean that we will see a tropical storm. Again, I'm going to reiterate that. This does not mean that we will for sure see a tropical storm or a hurricane. This just means that the percent chance of tropical activity is going to go up because it's very low right now, and I think it's going to become very high. But again, that doesn't mean there's any guarantee. There's not a 100% chance of tropical activity. All right, now for today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, how do you want the rest of June to go? And Janet said, I want it to stay cool all summer. And I'm actually surprised to see a lot of people feel that way. After the spring we had, I could kind of go for some heat. You know, I want to get my tan on. I just want some sunny weather. But a lot of people don't. And I was very interested and curious to see that because I thought a lot of you would want the heat by this point. But a lot of people disagree with me. So let me know in the comments, do you want heat or do you want it to kind of just stay cool in like 70s and lower 80s all summer? Let me know in the comments down below. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and social media. I will see you guys in the next video.